All right, welcome everybody. I wanted to thank you all for coming. I'm kind of yelling into it. Normally I project my voice fairly well, so I'll hold it down. This is a great turnout, and pretty excited about the opportunity to share what the department and now Stantec has been working on for the last 4 years, but I know the town has invested a lot of time and financial commitment over the last 12 actually, and even before that, trying to get the project into the 10-year plan. So why don't we'll advance the slide just to kind of give you a quick overview of what we're trying to do. This is a workshop, or we call it a workshop anyway, and we have a few different stations for everybody to kind of ask more questions. Dave's going to walk through at least the format specifically and what we're looking for, but I think the point is nothing is set in stone. And I know that's kind of scary sometimes given the fact that we spent a lot of time and money over the last 10 years to get to this point, but we've got a couple key decisions that we really need to make, and that's why we're here tonight. And so we have Pickering Corner Station, we have McManus, a couple different ideas there, as well as how we think traffic is going to move through that. And then more importantly, we kind of show the different typical sections. I know most of these are all based on what you've already done, but what we have done over the past 4 years in particular is we've updated the survey. A lot of things have changed, and that happened. So again, thank you all for coming tonight. We'll go to the next slide real quick so I can introduce everybody. We have a really big group, and maybe it's working, but we have representatives from Department of Transportation. We have Stantec, our consultant. Here we go. This has been a very big project team over the last few years, and I've been fortunate that I've been working for the department for about 4 years. I came from a consultant, and this was my first project, so I'm really excited to be here personally and sort of present the stuff that we've all been doing. So a big part of it is obviously working with the town. Tavis Austin has been instrumental in helping us through setting up the project advisory committee that we have, which is essentially an extension of the steering committee that you all had during the quarter study. I'm going to start with the department staff. My name is Jason Ayotte. I'm the project manager. And again, I've been there for 4 years. So I'm pretty much responsible for the oversight and the financial management of the project. We also have Corey in the back. He's going to help us with the Pickering Corner Station. Corey is our group leader. He's responsible. His position at the department is really to oversee Kathy and Michael at the check-in table for implementation of the project, making sure that it follows our design control criteria, and that Stantec does their job. And I guess I would like to introduce Dave McNamara. He's our consultant project manager, and Jerry Ford in the back. Most of you have probably met Jerry over the years. One of the things that I feel very fortunate about is having Stantec on this project because of the history within Wolfboro and just specifically the historical knowledge of what you guys have all been through has been really important to us. Also helping us with the Pickering Corner is Adam. He's in the back. We have Tracy and Tyler. At this point, they are the ones that are doing most of the work for us to help us meet our project commitments as well as advertise the project, which the goal is to do that in fiscal year of 26. We don't have Sheila here tonight, but really happy that we have a big group to kind of help. So please don't be bashful in helping or asking questions for us to kind of help you understand what you're seeing in front of you, as well as project questions. So Dave and I will probably be floating a little bit, so if you have specific questions, please feel free to direct them. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so I would probably guess that 90% of you know the project history for South Main Street. It's been around for an extended period of time, started really in 2000 within the master plan, but Wolfboro was successful through the Regional Planning Commission to get this into the 10-year plan. So it is a 10-year plan for a reason. Most of those projects don't get fiscal funding until later in the 10-year plan, so we're kind of in that preliminary engineering stage as we are. One of the great things about this project, in my opinion, is the town took a lot of commitment in really creating a steering committee, developing a corridor study and providing the department really a preference of what they like to see in the different areas. And that doesn't happen very often. It shows true commitment to the project, and thank you for the leadership from Wolfboro to basically do that. In 2018, the previous project manager, the town wrote a letter to him, Don Lightford, about what they'd like to see. And so that was pretty important. I think there were specific recommendations for Pickering Corner. They liked what we call the enhanced pavement markings, so you're going to see that on the board. The steering group did look at a roundabout. Not in favor of it, mostly because of the impacts, but be willing to consider if we could do something different. So we tried to do something different. We're actually showing a roundabout much smaller in size, less impacts, but it's something different that the community can take a look and see if they like. Then also, there was a strong preference not to have a signal. However, through the project advisory committee and some of our stakeholder meetings specifically, there was a request to look at signals. So we chose to evaluate the signals, and I think it was really eye-opening for us as the department, as well as I think you'll see tonight that there are a few more impacts than originally expected. But I think that's part of this process, is understanding what the impacts are so that we can share them with you, and then we can evaluate it with not only the community, but our sister agencies like DES. Happy to have DES here. But also other community outgroups. So essentially from 2019 through today, we've been able to partner with Stantec. We do have a project advisory committee made up of leadership within the community as well as stakeholders, and that's been very valuable for us to kind of understand, really allow the department to understand specifically what the preferences are within. So a lot of, there haven't been a tremendous amount of decisions made during that, but they've really helped steer us for what was decided and what the temperature of the community is now. And I hope that you respond well to them. So I think, all right, so I'm gonna continue just for a little bit longer. So originally, the application for the 10-year plan actually went from the Alton Town Line all the way through to the 109 intersection. That was the original project. There was only about $7 million programmed for construction in that. $7 million doesn't go a very long way in today's dollars. So we had met early with the town, and the preference has been what the corridor study called segment 3 and segment 4, which is from Pleasant Valley Road essentially all the way through to Pickering Corner. What we decided to do from the department's perspective, so that we made sure that we encompass enough study area to be able to evaluate the natural and the cultural resources, is actually evaluate from Crossroad north to Pickering Corner. So our study area and all the plans, they've kind of been developed for that. If we do have the opportunity to get more money, which did happen a couple years ago, there was a change in the funding formula. We were able to receive, or there was additional funding out there. I requested additional $3 million for this project, so now we're at a total funding with $10 million. It still doesn't cover all segments, but we're going to focus on what the town felt was priority. So from here on out, you're really only going to see the preference, I guess the town's preference, to make sure that we address segments 3 and segment 4, and then that's essentially what we've got here. So I think this is probably a good opportunity to turn it over to Dave and kind of help you, orient you to see what happened tonight. Thank you.
Sure, thanks Jason. Yeah, so just continuing on with what Jason was saying, where are we? So segments 1 and 2 in that town recommendation are part of this project. And then as Jason had mentioned, segments 3 and 4 is really where we're focused today. So in the Pleasant Valley area, this is from that 2018 town planning report. The Pleasant Valley area, we talked about a T intersection for Pleasant Valley and to improve the safety of the golf course crossing. And then as we continue on west, in the area of the hospital and the safety building, the 2-lane roadway to accommodate a sidewalk and some landscaping panel, some improvements to the crosswalks, some improvements in front of the church to allow for more pull-off and a little bit better access. And then the end of segment 4 is that Pickering Corner intersection, which we can discuss in more detail in the corner back there. But the preference at the time was the unsignalized intersection. A roundabout was acceptable, if the impacts were manageable. So as had been mentioned, we did come up with a different roundabout layout that does shrink the impacts and functions traffic-wise very well. So we can talk about that in that corner. Slow on here. So just stepping back a little bit for the purpose and need of the project, the reason we're here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but everyone probably knows the issues out here. The corridor, there's a lot of congestion, there's a lot of safety issues, there's not a lot of room for bikes, pedestrian crossings are infrequent and maybe not located at the best locations. And really what the town is looking to do is these bullets down here. Improve the pedestrian access, maintain the character of the town, while fostering economic and social vitality and sustaining a high quality of life for the businesses. So that's what we're looking for here, is to try to come up with alternatives that meet these needs and solve the purpose of the project. So again, just building on a little bit more, the vision statement coming out of that planning study is Wolfboro's gateway to its village core will be enhanced by the Route 28 corridor, which will provide access to downtown areas while moving traffic through in a slow, steady, and efficient manner, while providing safe, friendly, and aesthetically pleasing walkways and bike paths for pedestrians. People will feel comfortable using the corridor, which will promote, and then we've got this list of things here. And so a lot of this stuff, well, we'll get to the survey, but a lot of this stuff you'll see in that survey that we're asking for your opinions on. Yeah, and then finally, the last of the purpose and need part, the pavement condition. The road's been around for 100 years. There's been very little done to it in that time. So the road itself is in poor shape. There's a lot of drainage issues out here. There's a lot of ponding off the road. There's not a lot of water quality treatment out here. So these are all issues that we want to look at as part of this project. Mobility, it's not particularly safe for bikes out here. There's very limited shoulder. It's about 24 feet wide, edge of pavement to edge of pavement. So 22 of that is really being taken up by the cars. So there's very little pavement for bikes to use. The sidewalks, some of them are below the road grade. They puddle, they're not usable a lot of the times. There's no curbing separation, so there's not a lot of separation between the pedestrians and the cars. So these are all mobility issues that we're looking to improve the area for all users. And then safety really ties into all of those. It's a component of everything else that we're looking at. Sorry. So just a little bit closer view, skip through, but the corridor limits, essentially, as we had mentioned, from Pleasant Valley down through Pickering, is the focus of the project at this time. Oops. All right, so the meeting for tonight, what we're really looking to do, as Jason mentioned, it's a workshop. We're looking to get input from all of you, ask us questions, give us comments. What we want to do is be able to kind of narrow down the focus of these alternatives coming out of this meeting and have a better understanding of what the town is looking for out here. So our intent is we'll have 3 breakout sessions, approximately a half an hour each. One of the sessions will be Pickering Corner, McManus and Pleasant Valley over here, and then this is basically the corridor typical section in between the 2 intersections, and then this table is kind of focused on drainage and permitting type issues if there's any questions there. So at the beginning of each session, each of the tables will give a real short presentation, kind of describe what the alternatives are, what you're looking at with the different graphics, and just get you oriented to what's at that table. And then it'll open up for questions and discussion with whoever's there. There'll be at least one Stan Tech and one DOT employee at each, so we'll have a couple people there to try to help you out and answer as many questions as we can. After about a half an hour, we'll try to get everybody to rotate to the next one. If you're really focused on one, we're not going to force you to go from one to the other. You can stay at one, but we do encourage you to, at some point, at least make your way to all the different stations and weigh in. And so at each of the stations, there's going to be a survey card, which I'll talk a little bit more on the next slide. But we're asking you to, we'll have the verbal conversations, but if you can also fill out these survey cards, they're specific to each station, and that'll give us more input and more data to work off of. The survey is also online. There is a card at the welcome table. If you pick that up, it's got a QR code. You can scan that. That'll bring you right to the survey. It's the same questions. They're just all in one spot. So you can answer those questions right on your phone tonight if you don't want to fill them out. That'll be open till April 1st, so you can go in and fill out the survey after the meeting as well if you so choose. Another piece of input we're looking to get in this corner over here as you're leaving, there's another kind of full role plan graphic. We've got a lot of sticky dots on it. We're asking you to look at crosswalks as they exist and kind of opine on which ones are in the right spot, which ones are used, which ones maybe aren't safe as they are due to sight lines or any other issues. And then also put down where you might want to see a crosswalk. Where do people actually cross across Route 28? So that'll give us a better handle on what the actual patterns are, what crosswalks are used, and what other crossing points do get used as well. So that's on the corner. If you can hop over there at some point before you leave and put your thoughts down with the little stickies, that'd be great. I think we had a good open house kind of discussion when we first got here, so we're a little bit behind. We'll try to make up some of that time, but we'll shoot to keep these at a half an hour. Once we get started, once we break out of here. As I said, you can move, but you can stay at one. We encourage you to get to all of them and see what's going on, but if you are focused particularly on one, you're welcome to stay there as well. Well, when the next slide comes up, it's going to be about the survey cards. So I think I've covered those. They're here. They're different colors for each station. And then there's little boxes on the stations and then another one at the check-in table. If you can just leave the surveys on your way out, that'd be great. Oops. So going forward, so Station 1, which is what we're calling McManus over here, it's going to talk about, we've got 3 different intersection alternatives. We've got a graphic. We have talked with the school district a little bit of some minor changes they may look to make on their side of the property to kind of improve their circulation within the property in conjunction with some of the work we'd be doing. It is a potential gateway location, so the aesthetics of it and the traffic calming as you come into the town through this area and with the school are important focuses of this area. The other thing that we have at McManus and at Pickering, the station in the corner, is we have some traffic simulation models. So what we're showing on one screen will be each of the alternatives with traffic moving through the roundabout, the striping, the stop control, the signal, whatever the alternatives are at each one, essentially at the same time. So there'll be one video that shows a PM peak in kind of an average month, so a non-summer month, an AM peak in an average month, and then we've got a summer month simulation as well that shows what happens in the summer here, which we're not really solving. The focus of this project, and I think going all the way back, is this is not intended to alleviate all of the congestion problems in the summer. We're not adding lanes of traffic to move people through here more. We want to maintain that character, make the improvements where we can at the key intersections, but we're not making massive changes to accommodate the summertime traffic. So Pickering is the same thing as McManus. It's got 4 alternatives over there because that one has a signalized alternative that McManus doesn't have. And then here at Station 3, which is the corridor station, the 2 straight tables over there, that has the corridor, that has the typical section. All the little smaller 11 by 17 plans are critical sections, so those are views in particular spots of if that sidewalk moves around, what those impacts would look like. So those are just close-up views of the movement of that sidewalk. And then environmental and stormwater, and there's some handouts on the environmental process at this table here for those that are interested. I think it skipped past it. It's Pickering, I can try. The talk is the same as at McManus. So basically we have 4 alternatives at Pickering. We have the stop control, We have essentially the existing kind of a minimum build where we wouldn't change any of the traffic patterns. Sidewalks will go back where they were, just some minor changes, but basically put back what's there. And then we've got the compact roundabout, which is a smaller roundabout than what was shown 4 years ago in the 2018 report. It also has the same video simulations that McManus does, but with the Pickering alternatives. So it's not really going back, but all of the graphics are over there, and they'll be able to give you a more detailed explanation of what's going on at Pickering. So we talked about the survey comment cards. If you log on tonight, obviously we have all the graphics here. All these graphics will be posted on the DOT's website, and there's a link to that website. They're not up there right now, but they will get up there. So if you do want to go in and do the survey in the future, you'll be able to link over to the plans on that website and be able to see the full-size plans. We aren't able to get the big plans on that survey the way that's set up. So going forward, coming out of this meeting, schedule a next step. So we're at the public workshop now. Our intent would be to get back together with the PAC at some point in the next couple of months to kind of digest everything that we learned tonight, pull it all together, try to narrow down those alternatives that we're talking about, see what the feedback was, and work towards kind of a more traditional public informational meeting in the summer. That's where we'll have a more lengthy presentation or a more specific presentation on each of the alternatives and the project as a whole, and then everyone will have an opportunity to come up, speak to those alternatives, voice their opinions, questions, whatever it may be. So there's going to be another step in the process where you will have more input as well. But what we're looking for tonight is really to try to narrow that down so we can come back with a much smaller number of alternatives and try to narrow it down to a preferred alternative. And then that will lead to a public hearing likely next winter. That'd be the formal public hearing that really would define what the project is going to be. If that gets accepted, that's really where we would move the project into final design, spring of '24 through '26 with the permitting, any sort of right-of-way that'd be required. So that's the timeline with a 2026 anticipated construction as you go forward. And so this is the DOT's website, so you can see the different PAC meetings and some of the different steps as we've gone along the way, and some of the graphics and materials that were presented at those different spots. So that's going to be available. That'll be updated with tonight's information, so you'll be able to go in and take another look at anything you look at tonight. So if you do want to give it a little harder look and get back to us with input later on, that's fine as well. Yes? You can over here. I think somebody else can do it probably better than I can at the table.
Well, since it pertains to all the
Yeah.
it'd be nice to have an
And that's what this table's for. This is an overview of the permitting and the environmental. Do you want to touch on it?
I can
I just
touch
don't
on
want to butcher it.
So the Section 106 process does involve, and I'm not a cultural resource specialist at all, and it's unfortunate that Sheila and Jill couldn't join us tonight. However, it is a formal process because of federal law that we're required to go through and review any of the impacts and the specific effects on historic properties. So there are historic properties within the corridor. There's actually a historic district. Our staff has gone through and sort of evaluated what's out there today. The results of this meeting is really important for us to refine what the impacts would be. So we've done basic archaeological research, so we understand what resources are out there. We can't specifically go into specifics on that, and we also understand what the architecture from a historic standpoint is. So there are boundaries on here that we are aware of. Generally, our focus from the department is to minimize impacts on that, because then there would be requirements federally to mitigate for that. So the first step is generally the data collection and the review and understanding it. That's kind of what we have done. The second step is to, based on the community decisions here, as far as what we're doing, evaluate what those impacts are. And then there is the Department of Historic Resources, the New Hampshire Department of Historic Resource review, to make sure that we're being compliant from a New Hampshire standpoint as well as a federal standpoint. So that, because we're using federal dollars, we're going to follow the Section 106, which is really the architecture, as well as the NEPA, the National Environmental Protection Act. So I would be happy to get into it for anybody. The best of my knowledge, anyway, we do have a couple handouts. I think the most important thing of that, if you are really interested in the Section 106 process, we do have one consulting party, and it basically gives you access to the cultural resource meetings that we have internally with the Department of Historical Resources, as well as some of our other federal partners. I think we only have one consulting party at this point. We have the Heritage Commission. However, I know that there's other individuals that, if they're available, that we can reach out. So if you are interested in the Section 106 process specifically, or you have a vested interest in cultural resources, I can certainly put you in contact with the right person so that you can be added to that list. Is that okay for this 15-minute overview? Fantastic. You got anything else? Or I certainly want to open it up. I think I'll finish off just quickly. This is really about you and your preferences. It's not going to hurt our feelings one way or another. We're really looking for good feedback, not necessarily positive, specifically positive feedback, but the surveys are really important for us. So please fill them out online, or drop them, in today, and then drop them in one of the boxes at each of the stations. We will use it. We do listen. And the last thing, it may feel like we're regurgitating some of the stuff that you did, but part of the process with federal dollars is we do have to walk through what we call the alternatives analysis, which is what you see today. That's a really important piece of satisfying the National Environmental Protection Act and getting federal approval to spend construction dollars on this. So for those of you that might feel that we're doing this again, 4 years later, that's not the case. This is, you did it with town dollars, we're doing it now with federal dollars, so we're just basically capturing what you've done in the past, as well as, updating it based on, today's standards, as well as the NEPA process. So I hope that clarifies a little bit. Welcome everybody. We'll sort of man the stations, but please get up, and then we'll get the workshop started. So thank you very much.